This morning, I played my first game of the day, and I got a game when I got done. It actually made me think. And so I wanted to make a quick video. The game was kind of smashing on a London system, and that may be of interest because a lot of people who follow this channel are London system players or have an interest in those types of pawn structures. But importantly, I thought, okay, I wasn't surprised on how the game went, and I'll kind of show you why. But I was surprised at how my opponent reacted to it. And the other thing is, for some reason, for the first time, I had this kind of light go off in my head and give me an idea of an opening repertoire for white on how I can get this type of position as white. And it may tie into my kind of chess approach for next year, where I want to be very simple, very minimalist, at least as far as openings. Kind of try to get the most I can out of chess for the least amount of time. And so what I want to do is we'll go through this game real quick. I'll tell where I learned how to play this way, but then I'll show you my idea as white. And perhaps maybe I'll throw a repertoire, like a total repertoire together as white, and just put the repertoire files out there for free for people if they want. And maybe if there's enough interest, make some videos playing games in that opening system. So this game was a London system, and I actually ended up playing this system here where I play bishop to d6. And it's a little bit tricky, okay? If they take it, you just take back. I like to take back with my c-pawn. You can take back with your queen. But it's fine. You've basically got in a fairly equal position. Now, the most common move is what my opponent did here, is he plays bishop to g3. And this wrinkle, which I learned from chess goals, I've used a bunch of their courses, but this idea actually came from their dynamic Slav course, which is a triangle Slav course. But the idea is you play queen to e7, and the most common move here, which my opponent played, is e3. That's kind of what most of the London system players are kind of going to do, and you can see about 70% of the time almost they play e3 here. And here's where the idea comes in. And I'll put a link, a card to the chess goals video. They actually have a video where they put their anti-London system out there that they use in their Slav course, and I think it's about a 45-minute video. But if you want to learn more of the ideas in this, go to that video. But the idea is you take, and then you hit them like a thunderbolt with this queen to b4 check. And the idea is you're checking them, so they have to do something about that. And at the same time, you're hitting the b2 pawn. And all of a sudden, the player that's used to playing the London system setups is kind of in unfamiliar territory. And so my opponent, what I found very interesting, okay, my opponent, look over here, his rating was 2041 in Blitz and 1992 in Bullet. And this was a 3-0 Blitz game, so no increment, 3 minutes for the whole game. Now, if you look, going into this move, my opponent had 2 minutes and 53 seconds. I had 2 minutes 55 seconds. And what I found very interesting is my opponent spent almost 30 seconds on this move, 25 seconds. Now he plays knight to b2, which is the best move in this position. But in a 3-minute game, he's just used up a lot of clock. So then the idea is you grab that pawn, and if you look over here, you can see that objectively this position is equal. So we've equalized. We have the pawn in hand, but white is ahead in development. And so the idea for white would be to try to make use of that development, right? Now, interestingly, he plays knight to b3, which is maybe not ideal, but I can see how a player would want to play that because they're faced for this. They haven't seen this before, and they think, okay, maybe I can trap the queen in. Well, we have in this system, if you watch these videos, you'll notice that a safe square is a3 for the queen. So I just kind of mindlessly played it there. You can see practically instantly, because then I know I always have this diagonal to retreat along. Um, and there's other things that white can try. You could watch those videos. I'll have a link to it up there if you want. But if you play queen to a3, you're going to be just fine here. And so my opponent then does this check. So I get to just play c6 for free, basically, with time on his bishop, and he retreats it. So now you can see one of their major sources of counterplay is they converge on h7, because this h file has been opened up when we did bishop takes bishop and they took back with their h pawn. And so the opponent could have played there first without letting me get, an additional pawn move in. So I played knight to f6, put extra protection on h7, and just getting developed. And then here you'll see, this is what I found very fascinating. And I wanted to kind of discuss the psychology of this move a little bit. But my opponent, who has a decent bullet rating, plays the London system, so is probably a solid player, can pulse out decent moves pretty quickly, would know that you don't necessarily move pieces a second time in the opening until you've gotten all your pieces developed. But he did that. He lashed out with this move, and it doesn't accomplish anything. If you look at the evaluation, I'm already 0.6 ahead. As soon as he moves a piece a second time without developing any other pieces, now I'm a pawn and a half ahead according to the computer. So I'm I know this is really good for me, because he's wasted time on the bishop. He's wasted time on the knight. I got this pawn in hand. And surprisingly, the game doesn't last too much longer. We'll go through it quickly. But I did want to kind of discuss that psychology of it. We got this by playing this, weird move. All of a sudden, they find themselves a pawn down. They know they need to find some kind of compensation for that pawn. And they get impatient and go all out for it. Well, that's interesting. I just play this move. Now, he's out. He's only escape square back was there, actually. And here, I think I had probably a better move. What's interesting is this knight, or this rook, is unprotected, right? So I'm not threatening to actually take this yet. So perhaps, maybe, I could have just come back here, and that would have been a real threat, right? But I didn't play the optimal move. I played it probably a bit too quickly. Long story short, he moves this piece another time. Tries to get some counterplay over here. I castle here. He plays a4. I just take his free knight. And white resigns. So just a 3-0 game, and I thought, well, God, but for some reason this really interested me and made me think. So I know I've always done well in this line, and if I look at my results, I can see I've had this position here where I get, just in this game, where I'm able to do bishop takes g3, h takes g3, and queen to b4, and my performance rating is very high. I win this at a 2-to-1 clip is black, and I think it's an even position, but it's not a comfortable position to play for most London players or most club players. It's just out of their comfort zone. I have that material. The computer thinks they do have compensation for that pawn. It's a dead even position, but it's hard to prove that compensation. So then I got done. I'm thinking, okay, I used to play the Colle system, and I was thinking one of the things I didn't like in the Colle system was these anti-colles, where you go like this, and now they play bishop to f5, because in the Colle we want to put our bishop on this d3 square and eventually play to push e4. And most players will suggest, like strong titled players will suggest that you play c4 and you just kind of switch, instead of going into your triangle structure, by moving here, you say, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to get our queen out, kind of probe that b6 pawn, b7 pawn, try to provoke some weaknesses on the light squares over here on the queen side. And that's a fine way of playing it. But it's not necessarily to my taste. But I thought, okay, that's interesting. I just had this game where I played this kind of anti-London system. What if in the Colle you play bishop to d3 here, and if they take, you play queen takes, just kind of like we did in that London system. And what's fascinating is in this position, I have this on 1,800 and 2,000 players, so it's people between 18 and 2,200 on Lichess. Almost 60% of the time they play e6, which allows this same idea where we can check with the queen and hit the b7 pawn at the same time. And the best move here is knight b to d7. And voila, we grab this pawn. Now, if you notice, when we did this in the London system as black, it was once we grabbed that pawn, it was a dead even position according to the computer. Here, we are half a pawn ahead according to the computer. So we are a move ahead in the position. And more importantly, let's go to this part of this game where we get to that spot, and let's just kind of flip between these two positions. Well, you notice another major difference is in this position, white has this open H-file that they can use to try to get pressure if we were ever to castle kingside, or even if we don't, they can try to mount some counterattacks there. Well, in this kind of corollary position in the Colle system, when they play the anti-colle, they don't have an open H-file, right? So, and they don't have this light squared bishop. They don't have the equivalent bishop to attack on the king side. I guess they do have this dark squared bishop, which is technically the equivalent. But it's kind of nice that there's no open file to go along with it. So that's why you have this difference in this compensation. But if you look at it, bishop to d6 is the best move here. But look at how well white scores. And it's it's like an unbalanced position where white can fight for an active game. It's not like a boring thing where everything gets traded off. And yeah, so I was seriously considering maybe for an easy way, as I'm trying to spend, put my study time into the black openings, and with white, maybe play something that's quite easy to play, at least from a theoretical standpoint. And the Colle system, I think, to the level that my ambitions want me to get to, would be perfectly fine. And so I was thinking, okay, well, most of the time they walk into this thing where we get this idea. Now, if they don't, the best move would be c6. Well, it seems to me like we can just set up a quick e4 break. Could castle first to be safe, that's fine. And then do this quick e4 break. And what's interesting is in this position here, there's still opportunities for black to go wrong. Now, most of the time they play the correct move, which is knight to d7. And we just get kind of a position where the best way to play it is to get your pawns up here. When they gain tempo on your queen, just bring your queen back. And you just got like this smidge of an advantage and like a solid position. But what's interesting is in this position here, if they try to run quickly to castle, Knight to g5 here is just devastating. If we turn the engine on, knight to g5 is almost, it's a over, well, it's a pawn and a half better for white, and that's with best defense, with the computer defending. But just it's just kind of nasty, right? They come over here, you start getting stuff set up for an attack. And so I thought, well, isn't this interesting? I played this game this morning in the London system, used this chess goals idea from this chess goals course, which I've had tremendous luck with on the black side, like winning at a 2-to-1 clip when I get into that actual line. And one of my kind of pet peeves when I played the Colle was this anti-colle. Well, maybe this is an answer to that. And it's kind of like the same as that line in the London system where they have less counterplay. It's half a pawn better objectively according to the computer. But I think, once again, people don't prepare against the Colle at my level. And then they're going to find themselves in this position where they're a pawn down. And practically speaking, how will they handle that? So what do you think? Do you think I should throw together like a Colle repertoire for my level and make it publicly available? Maybe put it in a chess.com library or a Lee Chess Study or something like that. And then as I get interesting games or as I play, try to learn it as I go and make some videos on the Colle games. Anyway, that's my thoughts, and kind of interesting how sometimes you get a game that you just think, I'm just going to play a mindless blitz game here, but you actually get something out of it, and it makes you think, and it makes you kind of process that game. So anyway, have a good one, everybody. Take care.